Hey everyone, how you guys doing today? We are back on our round. All right, so I managed to do fairly major refactor. This is what our main.py looks like now. Super simple, super clean. I am debating whether I want to show because I want to break this video into a review of what I did, and then I want to basically test everything live because I did like a really basic test in the sense of like, hey, is the app starting up? Yeah, okay, but I didn't like thoroughly test every endpoint. So I want to do this and this live, right? So I want to do first do the review. I'll actually probably do the Yak organization of endpoints in Yak so that I just have like one collected place where all my endpoints are and like with a couple of test cases or something like that. Um, yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I'm gonna set that up in Yak. Then I'm gonna test everything live, just make sure all the endpoints are working as expected, and all the functionality is there, and there's no issues. Turn to TDD. I'm actually gonna move up because these 3, 4 bus changes coming in. Yeah, is something I need to think about tomorrow. Like, it's like I really need to think about how I want to do that exactly. Specifically, this one, whether I want to trigger responses to incoming messages from like a cron on the database or something like that, or a webhook or a trigger from the webhook. Um, yes, I don't know exactly how I want that to work as of right now. So we'll see how that goes. Um, so that's a decision I need to make. But regardless, everything from the webhook needs to go to the database. Like that is an essential component that needs to happen. So I'll probably focus on actually, you know what? Let me option up. Yeah. Create Pydantic models for incoming webhook requests from WA setup database. So I think these three I can just do blindly without really thinking about it. And then I have to really make a decision regarding how I want to trigger responses. Because it really needs to start with stashing everything in the database, right? And also figuring out the blob storage and stuff like that. Like what if someone sends a photo or sends an audio or sends a location or sends a you know what I'm saying? Um, so I need to figure out all of these things. I might still re-explore. I might re-explore Paiwa. Am I really gonna explore Paiwa? Um, can I give API router object to WhatsApp client Paiwa? Let's see. I'm curious about this now. I'm like in a headspace of my own, and I want to look this up. I want the proper docs. Let's go to the client reference. I don't understand what the difference is between client reference and API reference. Oh, okay, I get it. Client reference. Let's go to client reference. Let's click client actually instead. Yeah, here's the actual client reference. Full documentation on Paiwa read the docs.io, which just redirects here. I think that's because all of this is the same stuff that's actually in the file as well. API version token. What is that one that's super important? Server equals FastAPI app. Alright, where is server? Command F server. Yeah. FastAPI none. The Flask or FastAPI app instance to use for the webhook required when you want to handle incoming updates. Pass none to insert the updates with the webhook update handler. And the flash to use for the webhook. Required when you want to handle incoming updates. Pass none to insert the updates with the webhook update handler. You know what? Nothing better than testing it out. I'm gonna add a to do for that. To do. Because honestly, if that does work, maybe I will stick with Paiwa for now. And then I'm super against using Paiwa, but I think it might like speed up my development a little bit right now. And yeah. To do Paiwa server can pass API router instance test. Okay. Yeah, so basically that's another thing I need to do. I don't know how many of these. So none of these, because these are like next step to-dos. But what I'm essentially going to do is just review everything with you guys, showcase everything to you that's new, and it's basically just a massive refactoring. And then we'll do a bunch of these kinds of little to-dos that I have all over the place. You know what? Let's move organize endpoints to in Yak up, because that's actually the first of the next steps to do that I'm gonna do, and I'll do that today live. But the others probably for the next one, and we're just gonna go through everything now. So should I show you on GitHub? Let me see what the GitHub diff looks like. SNS Industries app. 63 commits. Significant, yeah, it is definitely a significant refactoring. Yeah, I feel like, you know what, I'll just go through everything, I think, because I kind of did a lot in one commit, which is not necessarily the best thing to do, but whatever. You should really try to make your commits small, but it's also okay, because it's also, you'll do little commit, little commit, little commit, and then as you're writing descriptions in the thing, in the commits, like your brain starts working, then you go into flow state, and then you just do a bunch, right? So you don't want to like deny productivity when it shows, you know, like that. So anyways, so we'll start by showing here, and then if I'll go back to the GitHub diff if it's necessary. Essentially, it's been a significant what's the word I'm looking for? Refactoring, essentially. I moved almost all of the code in main.py to other places. Essentially, I created these two directories, dependencies and routers. I also added a empty dunder init to root, because I feel like the best thing to happen is the best thing software practice wise is to try and kind of structure and do your repo in such a way so that like, hey, tomorrow, can I open source this tomorrow, right? Like if your ignores are valid and everything like that, and you have like a dummy env file, like, can I open source this tomorrow, right? And just like add documentation and other people can start using it, right? Right, so if I ever want to package up the code in main and ship that off, right, like, you can do that. It's not unreasonable to do that. It's totally feasible, right? And it's just in general thinking that way would put in like good software dev practices, which by the way, if you didn't know, dunder init .py, even if it's empty, is what signifies the beginning of a package or something like that, right? Um, so I had an empty dunder in it. I moved everything out. Well, I'll show you where I've moved everything. I don't think I made, yeah, I had to make a change here to dependencies.applogging JSON formatter, right? So we'll just start from the beginning here. I'm importing all these dependencies, blah, blah, blah. So set logging level root. So if you guys remember, I had this like big try catch block to set logging level based on the env vars. And I decided to just do it from a function. I decided to functionize that, set logging level root, right? And I thought about just passing the logging level in it directly, but then what would essentially then I'd have to do this try except block outside because I already have to have the logging level here. But I kind of just wanted to remove that. So I just went with like, okay, I'm using this as a dependency anyways. We're just gonna pass it in, right? It's not a big deal. Ooh. What I could do, yeah, actually, I could make this as part of the async generator expression. Just gonna add another to do here. To do, make it explore making the following a part of lifespan function, right? I think that's not a terrible idea, right? Because when you pass the lifespan function, that code needs to execute anyways, right? So I don't think that's a bad idea. I might like move towards not having all of this here. I don't know. Brings up a lot of questions. My brain's turning continuously. So anyways, going back to the app logging, right? So, I mean, I already had JSON formatter here. You'll see I created an enum called app_logger and access_logger because I created two new functions. One is set logging level that I already showcased, that starting up try catch block, into which I give the get env function because I didn't want to have the try except block in main. And this does the calling for me. And then a cached function get loggers because there's only two values. I didn't use LRU cache because LRU cache has a max size set. This has no max size, which means it has no overhead in managing which cached values to evict. But this will only ever return two, maybe a few more handful of values, which is why I did it as an enum so that I can add more and it won't be a big deal. And boom, we are here. We're totally fine. It's not a big deal. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I wanted to see something, so that's why I set it to cache, right? And then I use both of these functions in my main, right? I set the logging level on root by passing in get env vars, and then I get rel loggers, which by default will return the regular logger, and then here I get rel loggers access logger. Actually, I don't think I need to do that. I'm just gonna leave it as is for now because I don't want to be changing code before I do all the tests, and then I'll start doing all the tests live, but I will add it to do. Remove the following line. Okay. I know I'm gathering to-dos like crazy, but it's okay. It's okay. Um, all right. So we get rel loggers, right, which returns app logger by default, and then returns the access logger if you pass it the appropriate enum, or you could actually just pass it the string. It'll still work. It's just the typing will complain at you because I expect it to. I'm just like being specific with the typing, basically. Um, and then I start up the app instance with app lifespan. So app lifespan is coming from dependencies. So in the dependencies, so I already showed you a part of app logging in the dependencies module. Let me show you. Settings also has get in vvars that was before, which I also turned from LRU cache to a regular cache. And the base settings environment variables, we're probably going to have to add to this in this video or soon. Ahoy! And then context managers.py. And honestly, I could probably inherit from this and create a few more functions that's just like get this, right? Or like just basically a getter setter class or something, like a getter class or something like that. Or maybe just a bunch of getter functions. I'm actually going to add that as a to-do. Explore getter class for individual / methods / pydantic models. Explore getter class methods pydantic models. Getter class methods pydantic models for individual vvars. There you go. So yeah, I have that here. And then finally, I have app lifespan. Remember, it was named lifespan. I just decided to rename it, make it a little bit more descriptive. App lifespan app, FastAPI, just the exact same code. And here I had logger. Oh, okay. Okay, another to do here. Yeah, I moved a bunch of code around, made sure it was mostly working, but I didn't really think it through. But so I'm gonna do that. To do switch with get rel logger. I just don't want to change any code. It's like everything's working. I just want to go through the demo properly, right? So anyways, going back to, I'm just gonna close all these extra ones. Init WAPI, settings, middleware, dummy endpoints. So going back to main, right? Where we start up FastAPI, we pass an app lifespan that we pull in from here. My major malfunction that I was having is essentially like, hey, does the decorator like persist? Basically, is what I was thinking, and I wasn't really sure about that. So I I just kind of tested it out and it works. And I'm still not 100% sure if it actually works. But the thing I read, which was an AI generated overview, and it kind of makes sense that this works this way. But basically, the decorator applies on function definition, not execution or import or usage. So when you import app lifespan from this, you're actually importing the thing that async context manager spits out and creates a new function for you that isn't actually app lifespan, but it's going to be the same name as app lifespan, and you won't be able to get this because it's wrapped in a decorator. Or maybe there's some way, I don't know. App.add middleware, access logging middleware. So that leads me to, where is my middleware? Oh, I put my middleware in routers. Yeah, okay. Before I do that, let me show the dunder init.py here. Yeah, so I'll explain what's going on here. And yeah, so first of all, what am I doing here? Here I'm essentially up importing. So I'm just making sure that only, well, not only, I bet I could like specifically import something from here if I wanted to from a specific module import something, because there's no such thing as an actual private or protected member in Python. Like everything is loosey goosey that way. Um, what this is doing is then it prevents people from, like if I go into main, so here you can see I can just do from dependencies, import rel loggers, all of these things, right? So I can up import it here so that now instead of typing from dependencies dot settings import this, from dependencies dot routers import this, or whatever, right? It negates that need. I can just go from dependencies import this. That's what I put in the dunder init file. And the reason I gave it the full thing is for some reason it doesn't work if you don't give it the fully qualified path. Um, and I'm not 100% sure why that is the case, but it is. I think it's because I'm. I think it has to do with the dunder init pi being there. It just makes it so that it enforces like full pathing because it's like a package now or whatever. Um, instead of doing relative pathing, which is actually kind of good because if you refactor or move things around, like it'll do that for you then pretty easily. I think so, at least. Well, there's no refactor option. I wonder if there's any refactoring extensions. I feel like I remember PyCharm and other things being super good at refactoring. Okay. Python refactor? Because I remember PyCharm having really... Oh my god, what is this? Demystifying JavaScript. Python indent. Mintlify docwriter, auto docstring, Django, type hints, get extension, indent, code spell checker, resource monitor, snippets, preview, wolf, real-time Python scratchpad. The hell is this? Oh, that's kind of neat. Oh. I actually quite like this. Is there any way I could wishlist this? Because I don't want to install it right now. I'm just gonna write it down somewhere. A REPL for Python. This is a fun one. Hold on, I'm gonna pause the recording. And I'm back. I just wanted to... I knew I had some personal notes opened up that I didn't want to share. I'm basically symptom tracking for my mom. So it's just some gnarly details in there that I don't want to expose y'all to. Let's see. A REPL, what's it called? For Python. Look up extension. You know what? I'm just going to document this in code. What am I doing? I'm just going to add it to a to-do. To-do. I think I should just have everything that I plan to do with this project and the project itself. I think it makes it like tracking it easier. Look into a REPL for Python and use it to replace use it to replace what? pg.py, essentially, right? Because I do have pg.py. As partial replacement. Okay, to do look up refactoring VS Code extensions, maybe, because what if I move a file around? There you go. Right, I just want to be able to like zoop copy and then just all the paths, all the imports update on their own. I don't have to go around fucking around with that. Essentially, because I think that would be a problem. Like, this is better, but this was like my first refactor, like serious one. Like, I mean, I did pull out app logging earlier, but that was a very small refactor. And on a solo project, like, I know everything about this, it's okay, but when other people start using it, it's going to be a problem. So I should look into how to refactor things as well. Anyways, so moving on, app.add middleware. So as you guys remember, we had I had a major malfunction where at app.middleware essentially was a decorator for a function, and then app.add middleware took a class, which was really confusing. So, and we figured out that basically to add middleware, it should be of type middleware, which is essentially a factory function. And to do that appropriately, you want to use Starlet base HTTP middleware, and like extend your specific middleware using that, and replace the function called dispatch, because doing at app.middleware, right, was essentially, yeah, I'm just going to go there and show it to you, was essentially doing exactly that. It was literally exactly doing exactly that, right, with your function. So I was initially like, okay, should I just keep it consistent and use the decorator and test it out with API router, which I could have done, and see if it could be added to the API router object, which would be actually super neat, because then that would mean you can have specific middlewares for specific routers. So I never tested that out. I might still test that out at some point in the future. We'll see. Because another way is to just, you could create separate apps that you mount onto the same server, which is another way of doing it. And those different apps would have different paths or whatever. I think that's useful for like V1, V2, etc., etc. What was I saying? So anyways, I might have to come back to that later to see if it even matters, right? So I'll just go there and show this to you. I essentially did exactly what I said, extended it with the Starlet class, right? And here I actually use the correct get.rel logger to get it. And it's essentially the same code, except I wrap it in a function called dispatch, which is me actually overloading a function of base HTTP middleware. And that's essentially what you do when you use the decorator. So I just did that because in effect right now it's the same, but like later on it gives me more control over the middleware, as I understand better the base HTTP middleware. Now there is a to-do up here that I may or may not get to in this video because I want to focus on more coding related stuff, but I just want to point it out is succinctly note the limitations of base HTTP middleware class in regards to context vars. So there is an issue with base HTTP middleware where context vars is not propagated up. So remember that the order that the middleware executes is in like 1, 2, 3, right? The innermost is considered the outermost middleware and is executed first, and then everything all the way up till the app, and then the first one is the innermost middleware, which then gets executed back out, right, on the other path. And the thing that's important here is basically, I do remember this like from one of my ChatGPT thing, is that context vars could be used for trace ID stuff. So you're gonna want to be careful especially if you want the trace ID to propagate through multiple different middlewares that you might use. Right now I'm just using one, but there's Core's middleware, there's other middlewares, there's Hoth middlewares, there's all kinds of middlewares that I might end up using, right? And if I want the trace ID to pop through all of them to make sure everything is executing fine, then I kind of need it to be on access locking middleware. Yeah. Yeah. I might end up using Pydantic Logfire. It's a complete random thing. Hashtag to do. Look into Pydantic Logfire. Because remember how I went down that whole thing with telemetry and all that? Pydantic Logfire seemed like a really good option. I still rather build something of my own, but it looked so good. I don't know if I could build something that can match what it provides. And honestly, FastAPI not so much, but I think things like Pydantic, Starlet, UV, like everything from Astral, they've kind of cemented themselves so well as as open source tools, and whatever they built on top their open source tools will take full power of all of their own tools, and their tools provide so much value outside of you using whatever they'll provide. I mean, Astral hasn't done anything, but they've raised like several $1 million, so they're going to try and do something. What that is, I don't know, but something. Probably some sort of like tool for publishing packages really easily, is my guess with how UV is going. And maybe some sort of paid competitor to Pylance. Like they're gonna bring parity with Pylance on Rough, and then like have it be like a literal paid competitor, as an extension or as or something like that. I don't know. I don't really know exactly about that one. Anyways, so I did it like this because I wanted to just have control. So that's middleware. What's the next thing? So dummy endpoints router and WA router. So a dummy endpoints is essentially, and remember from the router object, that you can use the router object and you can include routers on the app, and that's how you split this up into several files. I hope there's no overhead for this. I don't think there is. I think mounting is a separate thing, which you can do, app.mount and things like that. But I don't think it applies to routers, because if I remember reading correctly, like this isn't like a real router as you would see in other languages where it's a separate object. It's more like something that helps stitch it all together into a monolith, versus mounting, which is legitimately a separate app, or a completely separate instance, right? So just move my dummy endpoints router, the log test, the healthy, the boom. I'm gonna add it to do here. Hashtag to do. Hashtag to do. No space. Set path prefix on API router. Okay. Right. So that's, I think, pretty cool. Thing for me to do, so I could just set it on the router, and then in here I can just treat everything as root, and then just be like dummy, like anytime I go to dummy some endpoint, something happens, right? um that's kind of long. Dummy endpoints router dot get. It's not as succinct as router, but the reason I did it that way is because in the dunder init I can import it like this, instead of having just router and router again and again, which would be not possible actually. um Can add another to do. To do's. Refactor router names to start with to glob matching router underscore star. Right. I just want these, so instead of dummy endpoints router, it's router dummy endpoints. Or maybe not. Maybe not. I think this has been helpful for me because I'm like going through everything and being like, okay, this, like no to this, no to that, all that, no. Right? Let's just show you the WA router, which imports everything that's needed. Just do set prefix WA on API router. So yeah, let me just move that down over here. Yeah, it's just the get and the post. It's pretty straightforward. Post is doing essentially nothing other than logging it, right? So that's my routers. That's my dependencies. Let me see if there's anything else. That is the entire refactor, actually. I'm contemplating whether I want to do some to-dos in this video. I need to test everything live, which means organizing the yaks, which is boring as fuck. I don't want to do that. Let me think about this. I don't feel like doing it in this video because it's not super late, but it is kind of late. It's almost like 1 a.m. And I've had a bunch of to-dos and I feel a little overwhelmed. You know what? Best way to stop being overwhelmed is to reduce how you feel. Create. Settings. There you go. Auth. Apply auth to all requests in. Oh, there's a documentation. When working with APIs conflict with similar authentication errors across many requests, some of this duplication can be made easier with variables, but this approach still requires setup for each new request. Workspace requesting error. Ooh. Okay, anyways, for now I'm just gonna name this local and then move all my local endpoints into local. Uh, and then new folder, call it zrock reserved share. We'll move this one in here. Not gonna be too worried about zrock reserve. Actually, boy, local command C. I'm just gonna drop this at the very end. Reserved share. I'm gonna collapse that one. I don't believe I don't think I have a root endpoint anymore. Right, dummy endpoints router, log test, healthy, boom. And wa.py is both at the WA endpoint. I think I need some water. So, to do add generic root endpoint here. Yeah, I'm just gonna have like just a generic root endpoint, just like a hello world. But I'm just gonna put that down as a to do. Okay, so we have log test, we have health z, we have root, which is nothing, and then we have boom. So log test, health z, boom. I think that's the order it shows up in the dummy and pounds router as well, you know. So I'm gonna keep it like that, and then WA, and then I'm gonna duplicate, and then in the duplicate I'm gonna turn this into a post. Right. Let's get the endpoints. Where's my terminal? Oh, there it is. It's like, where the hell is my terminal? There you go. Oh, the app's running. Okay. So from the application started, we know our async context manager is working, which, by the way, I also, oh wait, no, I already showed that. I put it in a context manager. So that's working fine. Let's just go to main. The logging formatter is also working fine. Let's see. The access logging middleware will test with each router. So let's start with log test. Log test doesn't do anything except for this nonsense over here. And from 10 up, everything is being logged, no problem. And I get the access log as well. User agent yak, no problem. Next endpoint is health z, which status, okay, yeah, that's right. And we get another logging middleware on status, which reminds me I need to check my to-do. Why is this huge thing open? wa.py to do, no, Middleware dot to do. Yeah, okay, I already have it here. I wanted to add just the raw request object and the raw response object to the thing. Okay. So, moving on to the next one. So healthy is working fine. Boom should give us a server error, and it does, and no problems. Just gonna do log test again just to make sure. Yeah, yep, it's totally fine. WA. So WA get request should give me this crazy nonsense over here, which I will correct right now. Params. Type missing query hub channel. So hub dot mode subscribe hub dot challenge some integer hub dot verify token hub dot verify token Cox some random string, and this will give mode is not subscribe or incorrect verify token or incorrect verify token, right? And see, this right here is exactly why I want to add that the logging over here, because that's not very nice. This one is the post endpoint. I think this will be better done with my WhatsApp. Yep. Let's send a hi and check in the terminal, and boom, webhook received, details and metadata. Boom, we have the entire log here. It's totally beautiful and it's totally fine. I think organizing my Yak is just going to be a continuous thing. I wonder, can I export in Yak? Yak is like awesome. Send all. Okay, it does something. Duplicate settings. Settings. New cookie jar, set up fs sync or git. Export data. I haven't set up an environment here. I can create a new workspace. So you can export the workspace. Fair enough. Remember this? Yeah. Okay, so you can export data. Anyways, I just got distracted by Yak. I really like this app. It's really nice for someone like me, because Postman always gets like way too much shit right in your face, and I'm like, I don't understand like okay, I get like what a collection is. It's like, okay, easy to make so many API calls, right? But just the UI is super messy and makes you think like that, and then there's that paid subscription they keep shelling on you, and I don't know, it just feels like an unshitified app. And this does not feel that way. At least as of today. So yeah, testing done. I think we can remove some to-dos here. Organize endpoints in Yak Yokel. We did that. All of our current endpoints have been hidden. All of this, I'm just going to leave it there. Test everything live. I did that. Yeah, I think those were the things I did mention I'll do. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'm just going to close this video for now. It's 1:07 a.m. I don't know, I'm thinking about it. I'm not super tired, so I could work more. Well, either way, I think I'm done with this video. And then, because this video has been long enough as is, and I think I'll continue. I'll probably make another video right after this, or I'll just chill and think about it for a while and see how I feel. Um, yeah, because I think I want to be a bit more rigorous about making sure I don't break anything. So I'm just gonna make sure to test the whole API. So let me get that set up. Actually, I'm gonna set up iPhone mirroring so I can do the WhatsApp thing without like, sharing my WhatsApp details because I can't collapse the contacts for some reason. Super annoying in WhatsApp, in the WhatsApp app. So yeah, I think that's fine. I think we're gonna call it for this video. I'm gonna chill for a moment and then probably there'll be another video. Yeah. Hopefully it'll be tonight itself. See you guys. Have a good one. Bye.